We're going to be talking five-star hand salads today with Matt Bennett, who contributed his incredible ebook to the bundle called Five-Star Salad Revolution. His book is probably one of my favorite ebooks that are in the bundle. So if you haven't gotten the bundle yet, please click the link in my bio or Matt's bio or anyone's bio and just get the bundle, because there is now, as of this very moment, only 13 hours left to get the bundle. 13 hours and then it's gone. So amazing. I really love, like I said, I love his contribution. I love his love of salad.
Hey, what's up, Lissa?
Welcome, Matt. Hey, it's going good.
Oh,
the
man.
last
Feeling
day,
energized.
how are you feeling?
The lives have been great. I've been really enjoying myself, and yeah, it's always kind of bittersweet when it comes to an end, but definitely it's been a good time.
Yes, it has. And yeah, we only have 13 hours left to get the bundle. I'm excited to chat with you today because our live that we have titled Five-Star Hand Salads, kind of a combination of both of our ebooks that we've contributed. And,
Not yet.
Yeah, have you made
but
any
honestly,
of the
it is at the top of my to-do list because they look incredible. And the story you shared about going through the wrap making process that you went through, like discovering how to make the perfect wraps, I 100% resonated with. And I kind of was in the same boat. I just kind of gave up on them because mine would always get so crusty and they would always break. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to making some of the wraps you got in your book.
Nice. Do you have any that are you're kind of like, it's gonna be the first one to make?
Everything with the bagel one. What is it called? The everything. Yeah, the one that Nate really loves. I think I'm going to start with that one.
Nice. Yeah, that's basically like a tried and true one. We've been defaulting to that, and right now we actually have the Buffalo Ranch wrappers in there and the spicy pineapple ginger wraps in there. We're going to be wrapping them live at 2 p.m. Nice. So, your book, and I've said this multiple times in multiple videos across the last 11 days, that your book is probably one of my favorite contributions.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome. It's because I'm a salad lover, and you know, we both love fruit. Fruit's easy to love, right? It's so easy. But we're like, let's love vegetables and salads the same way we love fruit, because they're amazing. So what made you want to write this book and go into a little bit about what it's about, what people might learn, and why they should get the bundle so they get your book and my hand salad so they can make five-star hand salads.
I love that. And it's so funny. Our books, I feel like, go perfectly together. And so, yeah, I think that right there is a big reason to get the bundle. It's to learn how to make, you know, these delicious salads and use the wraps and just, I mean, it's just so fun, and you're fueling your body and nourishing your body at the same time. And you know, the reason I wrote the book is kind of, I mean, there's a few reasons, but one of the reasons is that, you know, like you said, people love fruit, right? It's not difficult to get people to eat more fruit, you know, but vegetables are a different story. You know, I've been talking to people for many years now about health, and, you know, every time greens come up or salads come up, you know, people say that they eat a good amount of greens, but then when I see a picture of their salad, or, you know, they kind of describe it a little more, it's really not that much. So I think there's a perception issue when it comes to the amount of greens that, you know, I think should be in people's diets. And so most people have just been kind of conditioned to believe that salads are inherently a side dish, whereas I want people to look at greens. I want them to change their perception of the role that greens play in the diet, And instead of thinking that it's just automatically like a side to your main dish, it should be the main dish itself, you know? So that is my goal, is to help people learn how to see greens differently, to understand how to incorporate them into their diet in a, you know, in a fun and easy way, and a delicious way, really, you know, most importantly. Make it taste delicious, make it be satisfying, so that you don't get done with your meal and just feel like, you know, you barely ate anything. You want it to have some substance to it, you want it to be delicious, and you want to, you know, just feel satisfied after the meal.
Exactly. I know. Yes. Thank you for sharing your salad love with the world, because it is really important. And I feel like when I first started doing this raw diet thing, I was living in Canada. And in Canada, like, yeah, we did get good fruit. Like in BC, they have like amazing peaches and nectarines, like beyond awesome, and cherries too. But I mean, where I was living in Edmonton, it was like 7 months out of the year, it was cold and gross, and like the fruit was like not that great. And it was like $8 to get one dragon fruit. So it was like really not practical for me to consume an abundant amount of fruit like other people I was seeing was doing. So I default, and plus I'm a savory person and I love savory. So I defaulted to more salads. I was doing 2 salads a day, and I was eating mostly bananas, dates, and apples, and the fruit that I could get. And so I was doing it, but one thing that I felt a little like challenged in the beginning was because everybody was pumping like the simplicity message, only fruit message, and they were like kind of poo-pooing my salads. They're like, it's too big, it's too complex, there's too much ingredients, blah, 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 right? And I'm like, but my candida went away, and my joint pain went away, and my gut issues went away, and my skin healed. I'm like, I'm doing something right here, right? So I found that challenging. And I think a lot of people, when they come into a raw diet, they think they need to eat only fruit or very limited, simple meals, which I get. Like, it makes sense, right? Eat like simple or whatever. And Nate and I, like in the summertime, if we get a good deal on mangoes, we'll eat a plate of mangoes. It's not the end of the world. But our goal is variety.
What's up, Nate?
Nate, sorry. So our goal is variety throughout the day and throughout the week, like making sure that we get a lot in. And it wasn't like that at the beginning. It was really challenging for me to add more variety, because I was A, indoctrinated that I needed less variety, and B, my gut was like on its healing journey. So I couldn't eat like huge amounts of variety, but I was aiming to like include more and more and more. So can you speak on that a little bit? Like the difference between like the simplicity mindset and then like adding more, because your 5-star salads are like our 5-star salads. We like put lots of stuff in them to get a wide range of nutrition. So
thanks. And I definitely, I hear exactly what you're saying. And that's one of the things, you know, there are, it's like there's 2 camps. There's the, you know, mono meal, simplistic way, you know, a philosophy of eating. And then there's the, you know, the more variety and just, you know, incorporating as many plant foods as you can into the diet, which, you know, like you said, there's a time for maybe both here and there. But I think overall, you know, what I talk about in the book is domestic diversity versus natural abundance, really. So, you know, we've got grocery stores, and there's only so much that the grocery store is going to carry, right? So we can definitely maximize the diversity within the grocery store, and I think that's great. But, you know, when you think about, we're basically a tropical species, right? We don't really have much hair on us to keep us warm, so cold climates aren't probably our natural habitat. So we're originally more of a tropical species, and, you know, tropical rainforests are known for their vast diversity, right? There's just incredible diversity of different plants and animals. But what I was thinking, you know, when I was writing the book, you know, it's like, if that's like more of our natural environment, wouldn't it make sense that we would be incorporating so much of this diversity into our diet? And so then, you know, I compare the average American or the average, Western diet, people are eating like 20 different foods, like 20 different plant foods, or combined animal and plant foods throughout the year. Like that is a very limited amount of variety, especially when you look at, like primates, like chimps and bonobos. They're somewhere around like 113 or more is what I read, different plant foods. And even gorillas are like 200 different plant foods. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. I was like, what? Nate and I are eating 80.
Right, exactly. So,
good.
so yeah, the thing is, I went to the grocery store and I surveyed how many different plant foods I could find in the grocery store, because I do talk about, there are good things and bad things about our food system. Obviously, it's a really great thing that we, in colder climates, like a lot of different places around the world that wouldn't normally have access to such a wide variety. Now, most people have a decent variety to choose from. Like even if, maybe the quality isn't the greatest all year round, there's usually, a decent amount of variety of decent quality produce that we can take advantage of. And so when I went to the grocery store, I found literally it was like almost exactly 113 different plant food, like fresh produce items, including nuts and seeds. And so yeah, so if we maximize the amount, the variety that we do have access to in a grocery store, we can potentially get somewhere close to like what the chimps and the bonobos are eating out there. And so, yeah, I think it's really important that we take that into account. Like, look at what other primates are consuming. And to me, it seems like a good idea to try to emulate that in as much as we can. And so, yeah, I just think utilizing the full variety that we have access to in the grocery stores. And if you want to learn about wild foraging, there's different books on finding fresh, free, you don't have to pay for it other than your time and the resources that it takes to get to wherever you're going. You can pick some dandelion greens or, some sorrel, or, there's a lot of different wild edible greens that we can add into the diet. And then I talk about other ways like sprouts and microgreens, like you guys are teaching everybody. You guys are doing amazing with that. That's so commendable. So thanks for doing that. And yeah, so that's my view on it. And that's what I talk about in the book, is just, maximize the amount of, variety that you have at the grocery store, and then look at other ways that you can incorporate, maybe some varieties that you won't find naturally in the grocery store, and, get some wild edibles, start sprouting and growing microgreens to just increase the abundance in your diet. Because I do think that's important.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. We're on the same mind wave, because variety has become such an important part of our lives, especially since we started learning about the microbiome a couple years ago. And my family history of gut disease, like my mom had colon cancer, my uncle died with Crohn's, her brother. So it's in my immediate genetics. And I'm dealt with candida overgrowth for 15 years, and like nothing I did lots of cleanses, all kinds of issues, but it went away when I added more variety and actually grew my gut. And even to this day, after 9 years doing raw, I'm still growing my gut, because I'm getting the gut tests done, and I'm adding even more variety that I didn't even eat back in the day, like fennel bulb and fennel seeds have become a staple. Sunchokes, Jerusalem artichoke, have become a staple. Jicama we've been eating a lot more of, and we've also been eating a lot more garlic and onions for the inulin and stuff. And yeah, just like expanding even more the amount of foods that we eat. And I love that you talk about the jungle or the forest. I use that similar analogy as well. It's like we value biodiversity in our forests. We're all about, the more biodiverse, the better. And we understand that on an environmental level. And most of us, I would say pretty much all of us, regardless of what diet you're eating, we understand the
Right.
detrimental
Yeah.
effects of monocropping, right? You got one field of one thing and there's very little life. There's still life, obviously, but there's very little life compared to the forest. And it's like, if we value the biodiversity in the forest and we understand the monocropping of the field, the same thing is happening in our gut with what we're feeding it. So it's like, we want the forest gut diversity, right? Instead of being super, because there's some people who are super limited with what they're eating, and or they're on like a standard North American diet and they're eating like no fiber hardly, like most of it's oils, processed food, animal products, which are super low to no fiber. And they're like, it's like they're monocropping their gut. There's a little life in there, but it's really not very abundant. And so when they do have some variety, it's like, you know, there's not enough life to deal with the variety. So diversity and variety is so important. Plus, it's the spice of life. I mean, we like to explore and taste new things.
100%. I love that the monocropping image is so spot on. Because I mean, people understand that that's not natural, it's not really healthy, and like you said, we always hear about the, you know, people praise diversity in our ecosystems, and there's no reason that we should think anything differently that, you know, about our gut. So that's true. And you know, I like to say, and I know a lot of people say this, but food is information, right? And so I think that, you know, each different food is a different, you know, set of information. And so if you're going to go to like a coach, or like you want to learn from somebody, or you want like guidance from somebody, do you go to somebody that's maybe like read one book and that's it? Or do you want somebody that has, you know, read a bunch of books, has a lot of experience with what they're talking about? And so that's basically what you're doing. You're putting all the different books and all the different information into your gut so that it can understand its environment better. It knows how to like keep you healthy in the environment that you're in. So I mean, all it does is, the more different types of information or fiber or other nutrients we can expose the gut to, the more robust, the more strong, the more intelligent our immune system is going to be.
Yes. Oh, these analogies are just gold. Oh, I love it. I love that you say that too. It's just so incredible how important our microbiome is and how people don't really necessarily realize. And it's often called the forgotten organ, but also I read an article last month or whatever, and they were like, the human microbiome is an endangered species, which is scary when you think about it. It's like our gut microbiomes are, I mean, they are 99.5% of our DNA. Like, we think we're human. We're like 0.5% actual human DNA. The rest of our DNA is our gut, and they live on whole fiber, like both soluble and insoluble. Get that in there, get variety. It's just so 100%. Important.
Fully woven love. So nerdy I am. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
We love being nerdy.
Nothing better.
So speak a little bit on the green spheres, because I know you talk about that in your book, talking about like certain fears that people have and reasons why people don't necessarily eat more greens. So can you go through a little bit of that?
So starting off with, you know, why people don't necessarily like greens. You know, I talk about, you know, how from basically conception, you know, most babies are being grown in an environment of the standard American diet, right? So they're getting in all these hyper stimulating chemicals and, you know, food-like products that their mother is eating, and so that's what the baby is being grown in. And then once the baby is born, a lot of times they're given formulas or baby foods that have different oils and maybe high fructose corn syrup and, you know, all these other chemicals that are essentially it's just conditioning that baby's gut and taste for it's just hyperstimulation just from day one. And so, you know, and then, you know, of course, as they grow older, they have birthday parties and other, you know, things going on where they get cake and cookies and pie and all these things that even further educate that gut microbiome to desire very hyperstimulating things, products. So when you look at like leafy greens, you know, plant foods in general are going to generate a much more natural but much lower dopamine response in the brain. You know, it's not going to generate these high levels like some of these ultra processed foods give us. And so even within that, the leafy greens are the lowest, like besides water, right? We're going to get the lowest amount of dopamine response from something like leafy greens because they're just so low in calories. And, you know, so that's why I believe a lot of people just struggle with eating salads, is because, you know, one, they just don't get that dopamine stimulation that they're used to with hyperstimulating products. And so the idea is to do your best to get away from those hyperstimulating products for long enough to let your taste buds reset. And once you're able to do that, and also at the same time, you want to be bringing in more fresh fruits and vegetables. If you can get them in through like smoothies, or if you like to juice, a green juice is okay to get some more greens into you. And just getting, you know, growing sprouts again. Sprouts are a great snack, and you can just fit them into a sandwich or something. But, you know, that's one of the things that I try to communicate with the book, is it's how to raise what I call your green esteem. All right. So this hyperstimulation leads people to have a low green esteem, right? So not a low self-esteem, but a low green esteem. So you're feeling, you just don't value or respect the greens anymore, right? So raising that up, we can do that through just sneaking in the greens any way you can get them in. Smoothies, juices, you know, get some sprouts on your salad, put some arugula on your sandwich. You know, yeah. Make a ham salad. Honestly, I think that is a key way to get people to eat more greens, because, I mean, who doesn't like a wrap? I mean, everybody loves wraps. So that's solid. And yeah, so what was the first part of the question?
Oh,
Yes,
kind of like the green fears, because and why we don't necessarily, because we're talking about how we're set up for that first, and then move into other areas we start to fear 100%. The greens.
And also, you know, there's a lot of money to be made in people fearing healthy food, right? So that's what a lot of these corporations and food companies, they depend on, people being resistant to eating the healthy foods that are going to really make them less, you know, make their products less desirable to people. So I think a lot of it is just overhyping a lot of the studies that come out on isolated compounds such as oxalates, oxalic acid. You know, a lot of people are afraid that they're going to get kidney stones from too many oxalates if they eat leafy greens. Now, you know, millions of people go to the ER with kidney stone issues, and, you know, people are not overeating their salads. They're, you know, these people aren't eating a ton of greens. It's the very high acid load. It's the very dehydrating and just inflammatory foods that they're consuming that are causing these conditions for kidney stones to form. And, you know, when it comes down to it, the research shows that people that eat more leafy greens, more salads, more fruits, that they have lower risk of having kidney stones or oxalate issues. So, you know, it's a very unfounded fear, in my opinion, other than maybe a fringe group of people that maybe have like gastric bypass or, you know, have severe kidney disease or something like that. Those people, sure, they may need to keep an eye on their oxalate levels, but also they have to keep track of like a bunch of different things. So it's not just oxalates. But in the realm of just like an average person, it shouldn't be a concern. And, you know, something that I actually learned as I was writing this book, I learned a lot more about oxalates, that, you know, the body actually makes oxalates. The liver uses oxalic acid, or creates it, and it's used in pretty much every cell, from what I understand. And so it's a very natural thing. And the oxalates that we take in through the diet, it actually has a very small impact on the amount that we excrete through the kidneys. So most of the oxalates that are in the body is from the body making it itself, or through people taking supplements like vitamin C. Ascorbic acid actually turns into oxalic acid. And so people that are taking like vitamin C supplements and calcium supplements, they might be raising their risk for kidney stones because of that. And so if you eat whole foods, you're pretty much in a pretty safe space. You know, other than the foods that did seem to raise our oxalate level a little more than normal was the high ones that we've all probably heard about, like spinach, beet greens, chard, and rhubarb. So those are a few of them that are a little higher, but even still, I mean, if you're eating an alkalizing, a hydrating, you know, diet of fresh fruits and vegetables, your risk is, you know, in my opinion, it's pretty much zero. But, you know, if you are concerned about it, you can just avoid some of the higher oxalate greens, and then just make sure you rotate what you're eating. Like, don't eat the same thing every day. Just rotate it, and do your best to maintain a healthy gut microbiome, like we've been talking about, because the gut microbiome is a key part in regulating how much oxalate we take in. So.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and you know what else I learned through all of the microbiome science and everything? There is a bacteria species in our gut called oxalobacillus. They actually eat oxalates, and that's their food, and they're beneficial bacteria. They produce short-chain fatty acids for us that are anti-inflammatory. So the more, I'm not saying, again, like, you know, not to overdo the like living on spinach, like you're not eating bowls of spinach every day, but, you know, having a small amount of the oxalate for containing greens actually can feed those bacteria, and they give you good stuff too. So my oxalate bacteria is actually quite high, and so I have like a less chance of having any issues with the oxalate because I have a lot of those bacteria. But I have a lot of those bacteria because I eat the foods, but in small amounts, right? It's not like I said, we're not eating like bowls of spinach. We're rotating our greens, and we're getting variety in. So someone was asking in the chat, can you explain more on the science behind the hyperstimulating foods?
So, I mean, basically it comes down to the dopamine level that is generated when we consume different things. And so caloric content is one of the reasons why, you know, that help to stimulate that dopamine. They also put, you know, I mean, so the food industry calls it the bliss point. All right, so this is what the food industry focuses on, and they look to, you know, they put a lot of money into researching how to addict people to, or, you know, addict them or just make them really crave the foods that they produce. And so, yeah, they look for just the right amount of sweetness, the right amount of saltiness, and the right amount of creaminess, or, you know, fat content, which I think is more like, probably adds more calories. I don't know for sure, but and then the mouthfeel as well. So they just study how to formulate their foods in a way that, you know, it just hits. It's not too much, because, you know, it can be a little too sweet, or, you know, not sweet enough. So they find that perfect amount where it generates the highest level of dopamine from the brain. And you know, that's kind of what I try to do with the 5-star salads, is that I try to get all the right ingredients, the little sweetness, the saltiness, you know, the creaminess with the dressing, so that we hit our natural bliss point, right? So it's you hit that bliss point, but it's not at a point where it's overly, you know, excessive. And so it's you crave it, but in a healthy way.
Yes. I love that you mentioned that too, because I think people, when they hear dopamine hit, they think whatever
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is like bad per se, right? Because it's like, oh, it gave me a hit of dopamine or whatever. But listening to a baby
yeah,
laugh gives us dopamine. Smiling at somebody gives us dopamine. It's like, you know, like sexual attraction and adventures and
yep,
finding a new, actually going on new hikes and going to new places, that produces dopamine as well, because it's the chemical
right.
that motivates us to do whatever we're going to do. We want to get that happy motivation hormone, or neurotransmitter for that matter. But it's like when we're hyper stimulated and it's the
Yeah,
overabundance of the dopamine. So then when we do go to like a picnic, right, and there is just salad there, we feel like we're like, it wasn't that great because there weren't potato chips and burgers and all this
yep,
fat and salt and sugar, right? So the people feel like they're missing something because they're not getting that high level of stimulation. So they just can't be happy with a bowl of fruit and hanging out with their friends, because that's, like you say, it's a normal amount of dopamine, but we're so used to having these high amounts that when we are in a normal amount, we're like, this is kind of
yeah,
boring, and it's really
yeah.
sad.
You know, I like to, you know, have people think about it in terms of like coffee. You know, a lot of people drink coffee, and you know, the first time you drink coffee, it's like the first cup, which is like you're bouncing off the walls, right? Like you're buzzing. And then, you know, over time, it takes 2 cups, and then 3 cups, and then 4 cups. And then, you know, people are drinking pots of coffee to get that same feeling, because the body adapts. Just like you said, you eat a lot of, you know, greens, and so you have a high level of oxalobacter in your gut microbiome. And so that's the beauty of eating whole natural foods, is that, especially, you know, the fibrous plant foods that we're talking about, they they educate the gut microbiome with what, you know, what we're consuming, and you know what's coming in, and then the body adapts to that. And so just like when you eat healthy foods, the body adapts to it. Even if you consume unhealthy things like, you know, a lot of coffee, you know, there's debate on if coffee is healthy or not, but personally, I think anything that like gets us really stimulated probably is not ideal. And so yeah, the body will adapt. If you're drinking a lot of caffeine, it's gonna adapt, and you're gonna have to drink more to get that same stimulation. And yeah, so that's again, that's part of what the food industry studies. It's called sensory specific satiety. So you consume you know, one type of thing, and your body kind of adapts to it, and that's why the first bite of your meal, you know, tastes really good, and then over time, as you're eating that, the pleasure goes down. And so, you know, due to different hormones and things, but that's kind of what tells us to stop eating, is that we've eaten enough of something. But the food industry puts in the perfect amount of sweetness and the saltiness and the fattiness and the crunch, you know, of different things, and so that kind of avoids us from hitting that satiety point, and because there's so many things, so many different stimulating factors. So, you know, there's a lot that goes
Yeah,
into it.
right. How to release yeah, how to release that, because it is challenging. And I had somebody earlier in the chat who was asking like what have you experienced moving over, and we could probably move into that a little bit, because we're talking about changing from being hyperstimulated to now consuming a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. And how was that transition for you? Because how long has
Yeah,
it been that you've been
2011.
raw?
So it's been about 12 years now. And
And how
so
was
I
that transition
transitioned
like?
pretty, you know, kind of slow. It took me about a year to fully transition into it. Like 8 months to a year or something like that. And you know, I started out just with breakfast. I just started having fruit for breakfast, and then as I got comfortable doing that, I started then with my lunch, and I started having a salad for lunch. And so I would go, you know, at my work they had a salad bar. I would just go get a big salad for lunch, and then once I was comfortable with fruit for lunch and having my salad for or fruit for breakfast and salad for lunch. And then I started adding a little salad a side salad to my regular dinner. And then, you know, it just kind of started taking over my dinner. And pretty soon I was having a salad for dinner, and that was my whole dinner. So yeah, that was kind of how I transitioned into the lifestyle. And I just did it at a pace that was comfortable for me. Like, I wasn't trying to rush it or anything. Really, I was just learning. I was just so consumed with learning as much as I could about the benefits of fruits and vegetables, and, you know, watching documentaries and reading books and things. So yeah, I didn't rush it. I just, you know, went with what felt good, and that's what worked well for me. How about for you?
Yeah, I had a lot longer of a transition, I guess.
Okay.
Mine was like 10 years of learning, because I learned about a raw vegan diet in 2004. But back then it was the high fat gourmet, right? And I was also stuck in diet culture. So I was like, you know, obsessed with not eating enough, like really like lowering it down. And then I needed all these healthy fats to be healthy. So I was eating lots of oils and lots of, you know, I was eating animal products a lot back then.
Yeah.
I didn't have the vegan connection back then. So for 10 years, I probably tried raw like 100 times. I don't know. I would do it for like 2 days, and I wouldn't eat enough. That was probably the number one. And number two would be I ate too high fat. So it wasn't eating enough. I was eating too high fat. And then I'd just be like craving all kinds of things. I just was feeling low energy because I was eating so high fat and not enough fruit, not enough greens. So I would go back to eating whatever I was eating, and I would try, but I always resonated with the message. I was like, this makes sense. Like, why is it not working? So in 2014, that's when I was finally at my like wit's end. I had like severe acne. My candida overgrowth was like overgrown. And I had like bladder infections and yeast infections and either cold or flu, at least like every month or two, I had something going on. And brain fog, irritability, my mood was all over the place, joint pain, like severe joint pain. I had to like, every morning I would have to roll my ankles like this for like 2 or 3 minutes before I could get out of bed, because I couldn't like, it would hurt so bad to stand. And I had heart flutters, like all kinds of stuff. And I had symptoms of prediabetes and PCOS that never got diagnosed. I was too scared to get a diagnosis, but I knew, I was like, I must have these. So anyways, that's when I tried finally the low fat approach. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try the low fat raw thing. Cause I was watching Fully Raw Christina, and on one of her videos, someone was asking about documentaries. On one of her videos, I watched Cowspiracy, Earthlings, and Forks Over Knives, and I was instantly vegan. It had nothing to do with raw. It was ethical, and I was like, I'm vegan for life, but I'm going to choose raw because it makes the most sense to me again for like the millionth time. And my ex at the time was like rolling his eyes. He's like, oh, you're doing it again, right? But this time was different. This time was different because number one, I had the ethical connection for the vegan part. So there was no way I was going to eat animal products, cheese, honey, you name it. I wasn't going to touch that stuff. Number two, I started with the low fat approach. So I was eating in abundance. I was eating like 2,100 to 2,300 calories a day. Yeah. I lost 70 pounds eating that because I was eating a low fat diet. I was satiated. I was eating a wide variety. My candida went away because I fed my microbiome enough for them to fight it off. I didn't have any detox symptoms because I was eating adequate amount of calories. I was eating loads of fiber. I was supporting my liver with like all the phase 2 liver detox stuff. So my liver was functioning really well. Yeah, like I mean, people ask all the time, they're like, did you have detox? I'm like, no. Because I supported my body through it so that my body could just do it properly every day, and I didn't have all those symptoms. Like most people, you know, they're like, I have headaches, I'm irritable and all this. And I'm like, it probably isn't detox. You probably need to eat more food, but for the most part. But again, like I didn't have any. Did you have any kind of like symptoms while you were
pretty smooth, to be honest? And what I think a big part of why mine was so smooth is because I started eating a lot of leafy greens even before I even knew what this lifestyle was, or before I knew what a vegan was. because I started losing my hair when I was like 16. And so that was like a huge like scare for me because I really didn't want to lose my hair. So I started looking up, you know, different ways to prevent hair loss. And leafy greens was one of the things that I kept seeing. And so I started making big, massive spinach salads, like 3 to 4, maybe 5 times a week, like for years before I even knew about this diet and this lifestyle. And so I think that was a big part of conditioning my microbiome to help me transition into this lifestyle really, you know, smoothly without, I might have had a few headaches or some fatigue or something, but it was, you know, nothing like I hear other people are experiencing. So I think that was a big part of it.
Oh, that's so cool. It's
Yeah.
so interesting to hear other people's stories
Yes.
and like what made you do things and everything. Someone's asking in the chat, what is phase 2 liver detox? So phase 2, so there's 2 phases that our body goes through when it detoxes, and this happens 24/7. Like, it's not like we have to force our body into any detox because it's natural, it's normal, it happens. We have all these detox organs to do it. We don't have to force it. But so phase 1 and phase 2 are the liver, like first the liver takes the stuff and then it has to convert it into inert, inactive compounds. So then it can go through the colon, and the fiber, like all of the insoluble fiber that we're eating and some of the soluble, but that's all trapping the toxins so that we can poo them out, right? So fiber is incredibly important. When I was working in the natural health industry, all the companies that would sell like herbal cleanse kits and stuff, they would do trainings for us and we would learn about their products and everything. And all of them, every single company, it didn't matter who it was, they all said, if somebody goes on a cleanse of any kind, they need fiber. You need to sell them the fiber, because if they don't get the fiber in their diet, they're going to re-auto intoxify themselves. So fiber, and so I always was taught like fiber is like top priority. And so phase 2 is the part where the liver needs stuff to convert the toxins into inert, inactive compounds. And we need nutrition for that to happen. Like we have to give our liver stuff. And one of the most powerful things that the liver uses, and our cells in our body, because this happens in our cells as well, not just in the liver, but one of the most powerful compounds is L-glutathione, which is made, ironically enough, from cruciferous vegetables. So the more cruciferous that we eat, the stronger our phase 2 liver detox becomes, and we can detox much easier with that. So I wanted to, Sophie's asking, you just talked about concerns about hair loss and by eating spinach, but yet you have no hair.
It's okay.
Aww.
Yeah,
it's
no.
Not,
So hair loss, this is one thing that people, especially on like some of my YouTube videos when I get the trolls, they try to claim that hair loss is caused from going vegan, right? But I was losing my hair many years before, pretty much a decade before I got into this lifestyle. And so, you know, I mean, the thing is, eating a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet isn't necessarily for, especially probably for men, it's not going to, like, if you were losing your hair, it's not going to magically bring it back, right? But what I can say is that I learned, what this taught me is, one, eating a diet full of fruits and vegetables completely changed my thought process and the way that I looked at not only health, but at myself, right? So it gave me a whole new confidence, a whole new appreciation for who I was, besides what my hair looked like, right? Because it just, at the time, it was like the only thing that mattered to me. Now I realize there's so much more to life than hair. Well, I would love to have a full head of hair like Nate. I wish I could have Nate's hair, but that's just not in the cards for me, which I am totally fine with. What I am happy that I got into this lifestyle, thankfully, because I was afraid of losing my hair. It taught me and showed me through experience how just transformative eating greens like spinach and other leafy greens and fruits and vegetables, how it can just transform you to have a wider awareness of what's important, and just a more healthy outlook on life than what I had. So yeah, it might not have saved my hair, but it totally transformed the way I think, and the way that I just appreciate life. So that's all I can say about that.
I love that. That is so awesome. And that's a really, really, really important point that I think a lot of people miss when they start seeing people who are eating vegan or eating raw or whatever. They pick one little thing, like the fact that I have glasses. That's another one, right? Like, oh, why do you have glasses if you're eating raw? Like, it's for some reason people think that if we choose a raw diet, we're going to be 20 forever. We're going to have perfect eyesight. We're going to have the best hair ever. We're going to be like these superhuman Barbie Kendalls. Like, no, like, we're human beings like everybody else. And we age. We're going to I have wrinkles, right? Like, look at that, right? You know, it is what it is. And the whole point is to, number one, like you said, learn to love yourself. And when you put amazing foods into your body, you're respecting your body and you're learning to love it for what it is and where it's at. Like, I love who I am, just like you love who you are. And to have somebody come in and say your diet is wrong because you still wear glasses or because you don't have hair or you're overweight or whatever it is, it's like, we are trying our best to support our body right now. And that's all that matters, is because most people, they won't even try because I have glasses. They'll be like, well, raw diet doesn't work because you still have glasses. So I'm going to continue eating my animal products and my junk food because it doesn't work. It didn't fix Lissa's eyesight, or it didn't fix Matt's hair, or it didn't fix so-and-so's whatever, right? Or so-and-so has wrinkles, so I'm not going to eat fruits and vegetables. It's like, right? We have to learn to love ourselves through every stage of our life, not just where we're at today, but like the future you, right? We have to do this for our future selves. I made a reel yesterday about how there's so many people who put others before themselves, and they don't think about themselves, they neglect themselves. And I'm like, why don't you like put in your mind the future you as somebody that you're going to put first? Because if you're really good at putting others first, put the you from tomorrow first as well, right? Like, prepare your meals in advance. Like, pretend that you're preparing them for a loved family member or whatever, because you are that person. It's just not there. You're not there yet, right? So doing things in advance for yourself are really good. So I really like this conversation. I'm like totally into like the body positivity, like loving yourself where you're at, supporting your body with whole foods. So
pleasure.
thank you for sharing that, Matt.
I love that. Treating your future self as somebody else that you're, putting first. That's really good.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Matt. I know we both have a live coming up in 10 minutes. So, any closing words? Really
get the
quick?
bundle, and thank you, Lissa, for, being a big part of why this entire event is going on. It's amazing, and I really appreciate, you and Nate and Chris and, everything that all the work. I know it's an extremely large project to put something like this together, and so you guys are amazing. I just hope everybody appreciates just the immense value that is being offered in this bundle, because it's really incredible. And so definitely, check it out and let us know how you like it.
Yes. And please, if you have not gotten it yet, there is now, in 10 minutes, there will only be 12 hours left to get it. So go to Matt's page. Go give him a follow. I have his Raw Intuition in the chat. Give him a follow because he's amazing, and get the bundle from the link in his bio so that you can have all these resources. You could read Matt's book, which is amazing. It's like my favorite thing in the bundle, like I've said. So yeah, go follow Matt, get the bundle, download the content, and start adding more delicious raw food, high fiber to your life.
All right.
All right, so on to the next live. You're amazing, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All
All right.
right, ciao,
See you next
ciao.
time.